Good morning, everyone. How is everyone this morning? My name is Ben Blanquera, and I'm Vice President of Technology and Sustainability for Rackspace Technology. I'm so excited about our discussion today about integrating AI as a coworker with some fantastic guests. Before we dive into the session today, please take a moment to introduce yourself and where you are in the comments. During the session, please continue to ask questions and get involved in the conversation. So, Foundry for AI by Rackspace is a global incubator focused on accelerating business value through responsible AI solutions across all industries. We have a robust set of partnerships, technology, frameworks, capabilities, and services that accelerate our customers through the ideate, incubate, and industrialize phases of bringing AI solutions to bear. I'm thrilled that we just passed our 1-year anniversary of FAIR and thankful for our many global customers who have partnered with us on their AI journey. Now, let's go ahead and introduce our guests. Kathy and Kellie, please take a moment to introduce yourself. Let's start out with Kellie.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here today to talk about FAIR and AI. My name is Kellie Teal-Guess, and I'm the CHRO for Rackspace Technologies. And I've been in technology for a really long time and happy to continue to see it evolve and talk about it today.
Perfect. Kathy?
Hey, thanks, Ben. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kathleen Schneider, and I'm Chief Marketing Officer here at Rackspace. And similar to Kellie, I've been in B2B technology marketing for quite some time. And as we'll talk about, there is a lot changing with AI in marketing.
I am terribly excited. All right. So as we look forward, we're focused on integrating AI as a coworker to assist with complex workflows and coordinating activities to support specific roles within an organization. And today we've got Kellie and Kathy from our HR and marketing organization to talk about that. Now let's jump into how AI can make machines be better machines and humans be better humans. Let's go. All right. So the first question, Miss Kellie, what are some challenges facing HR or CHROs today?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Interestingly enough, the HR organization has changed and will continue to evolve in the future, right? Our clients need more from us and demand more from us. We have to be ahead of the curve and help our clients become more efficient and effective in what they do. And importantly, not only do we have to be HR professionals, we have to be business leaders as well. So we really need to understand what's going on there. Also, if you think about kind of pre-pandemic, pandemic, post-pandemic, employee expectations have changed. And they'll continue to evolve as we either go back to the office, work remotely, work hybridly, just a lot going on. And then the other thing is just the demands and needs from our workforce and filling our workforce gaps. We have untold number of people retiring at a quick rate, and us trying to figure out how to fill those gaps very quickly in a really strategic way for our clients. Those are kind of the three main things that we're seeing today that really are affecting CHROs.
Oh my goodness! And so I imagine trying to keep up and trying to figure out how to be effective to deal with these challenges is a huge challenge. I'm just curious, from your perspective, what is a primary HR use case for AI? How can AI help?
Listen, I'm so thrilled about this question because we have so many use cases we're working on today. But I'm going to walk you through two of them that we're really excited about. So the first one is, think about if you're a recruiter, you're in talent acquisition, or you're a hiring manager. And everyone probably on this call is a hiring manager at some point or have been hired, right? So think about, you have a resume, you have a job description, and you have to match the two up and try to figure out, what questions am I going to ask this candidate for this role? And so what AI does for us, so we have two coworkers that work with us in HR, and we love them as teammates, right? So we have Ice and Rita, and they do two different things. I'll let you talk about what they do. But if you think about, take that resume, compare it to the job description, what they do for us is come up with what questions our hiring manager should ask and our recruiter should ask that help us get to whether or not this candidate is the right person for the job. The other thing it does is it anonymizes the resume. So think about kind of bias-free recruiting, bias-free hiring. You don't have people attributes in there. So AI takes that out of there and really gets to the skills and the capability of the candidate for that role. So that's a main use case for us that we have right now at Rackspace. It's so amazing because it comes up with questions that you never thought to ask. You're like, okay, I should have asked that question. Thank you, AI, for filling that in for me. And it makes a really good use of your time and much more efficient in preparing for those interviews that come up. So that's one use case. Go ahead. Do you have a question, Ben? I'm
Oh
excited.
no, I'm just no. Go ahead. I'll pause because I'm like, man, that's huge.
Yeah,
please,
it's incredible. It's incredible. It makes us much better people, right? The other thing that it does, so here's one of my favorite use cases, and that is, imagine if you're an employee and you want to go grow your career, right? You're like, I would really love to continue to grow my career, either at Rackspace or somewhere else, but hopefully at Rackspace. And you say, I want to go to the next position. So ideally, you can upload your resume. You click on that position you want to go to, and it tells you, here's what happens between your resume and that position. That this tells you the skills and the attributes you need in order to get to the position you want to go to. And so it also then refers you to resources that'll tell you, here's where I go take a class, or here's the online effort that I need to do in order to grow my skill set to get to that position. The other thing it'll tell you is not only gaps, but what you're good at, what you already have. And then if we have filled that job in recent times, say in the past year, it'll tell you which hiring manager at Rackspace actually filled that job, so that you could go call that hiring manager and say, hey, what'd you look for in your next employee in this role? So imagine that career development path, right? All really powered by FAIR and AI. And there's no person intervention in there, except your manager should help monitor you, right? Until you get to the person who's hired that position in the last year. So now all of a sudden, we're really much more efficient thinking about how to develop our careers for every employee in the company. You could click on whatever position you want in the company, and that will tell you what you need to know or what skills you need to have in order to be in that position. So we have two fantastic coworkers who do that.
That is. Oh my gosh. And I love sort of this notion, like the first use case, when you think about getting ready to interview someone, you typically you'll get it, you think you're going to be, do it in advance, but typically you'll do it the morning of the interview, and you're doing a little panicky about how do I make sure I answer the right questions, right? That's real life. And I love the notion, like it could be like you have this coworker that just gives you the question that is tuned for the right questions. And I love the fact that sometimes, whether we like it or not, there is bias when you look at biographical information, right? And so the notion of taking bias out of the questions it's fabulous. And it's got to be like, how are the hiring managers how are they reacting to this tool?
Right.
What are you seeing, Kelly?
So I'm seeing that like you said, it's much more efficient use of their time. So we're not trying to replace people in the interview process. What we're trying to do is make them better interviewers and much more effective interviewers, right? So I think it's a much more effective and efficient use of their time. And then the other thing is it actually, what managers are saying to us, it gives them questions that they didn't think of, right? So for example, I mean, Kathy and I probably can interview a Java developer, but we don't have Java developing skills. I don't know, Kathy might, she's way talented. But it'll tell me like what you should be asking somebody that's a Java developer, for example, right? And so while I might not be asking that question, at least I'm thinking, at least someone's asking that question, right? To understand the skill set. So managers are finding that it's saving them a lot of time. It's also saving us time in the screening process too. So talent acquisition, when they screen candidates, can ask those questions and screen out candidates that probably weren't qualified to be going through the process anyway.
That's cool. What a fantastic use. And I love the second use case about, it's kind of like I have my own internal career counselor.
That's right.
That is attuned specifically to the things I'm trying to do in Rackspace.
That's right.
And I love the notion. And then having a sort of like the transparency, which is a big component of AI, regarding who the hiring manager is, how the path is. That is amazing to me.
Yeah. And listen, I have tons of use cases that I'm thrilled about. I'm very excited about, employee sentiment surveys. So think about, all of that can be done by AI. You don't actually have to hire other companies to do that for you. Employee retention and engagement. Think about ask HR any question that you wanted to know. What are my benefits? What's my copay? What's my plan? What does it cover? What does it cover? All that can be answered by Ask HR, which is also powered by FAIR. So really, really excited about all the things that are helping us become much more, like as you said, much better humans.
Oh, that's fantastic. Let's switch gears a little bit. Kathy, what are some challenges facing marketing and CMOs in this new age?
Yeah, well, some of these challenges have been around for a while. So I think what marketers are very excited about is having a new tool to apply. So I'd say navigating digital transformation would come up on top. I think it's been a while that CMOs and marketing people have so much technology. So one of the big challenges for us is having to integrate all this digital technology across the processes and all of the way that we conduct marketing, and to make sure that we do it in a way that doesn't create too much complexity, right? So that's one, but gives us all of these great benefits that we're looking for. And technology just continues to change so quickly. So it's all about also not getting overloaded, right? So you know, where is the right place to apply different technologies? I think the other one is data privacy and regulations. That's a big one, and trying to make sure that we can do hyper personalization and really drive that targeting, but also making sure that we're respectful of the privacy behind the data and balancing those two. That's a big one. One that Kellie and I have in common very much is the talent, right? So making sure that you have the right talent to employ a lot of this new technology is not easy. So hiring the talent, developing the talent internally, right? And then retaining it. So that's a big area for marketing. I would say also a fourth one is around, and this has a lot of implications around with AI, is ROI, being able to really measure the impact of marketing. So I think marketing ops as a function in marketing grew up out of this need to figure out what is the return of marketing and analyze marketing. And it was interesting because with all the new technology, when everything became very much digitally driven, there was this kind of feeling that there was nirvana around the corner, like, oh, everything's measurable, now. And we're really going to be able to understand the ROI. And from the last many years and the conferences I've been to and the peers I have, it's interesting because the dilemma feels like it's only worse. And I would say one of the hot topics among marketing leaders is we still can't measure really deeply, really accurately a lot of that marketing spend, even though in theory, with all of this digital activity and all of this technology, it's supposed to be so easy. So I think there's a big opportunity there. And then the fifth one I'd say is around relevance. Marketing leaders and marketers are challenged with how do you stay relevant? The noise level right now in the marketplace is so high. And, we're all consumers, right? So we all see marketing day to day and experience what that feels like. And I think we all have examples where it feels really good and effective. And then at places where it's just noise and it's in the way. And so marketers are constantly also facing that challenge of how do you drive relevant messaging and be relevant for your potential buyers in what is a very noisy marketplace right now.
My goodness. So here's what I heard. You have, all this data is supposed to make things better, but it's hard because there's so much data. It's almost overwhelming to figure out what are the right sort of touch points. We know the use case associated hyper personalization and how do you, because everyone wants things that are just relevant to me. Because I don't know about you, but a lot of folks, their attention span is like this big.
Yes,
if it doesn't focus on me, I'm switching channels really fast. And like you said, in the noise, the amount of digital touch points for folks is just deafening. And so the question is, how do you do that? So within the context of all that, Kathy, I'm curious, and what is the AI use cases in your world?
Yeah, and so there's some really interesting studies out there as well that are accessible. So people that want to know more about it, certainly I would encourage you to in fact ask ChatGPT, for example, what are the top most shared and most viewed reports right now? There's some fantastic data out there, but I'd say that lead identification. So one application that is really exciting is, again, we have been doing lead scoring. Marketers, right, are one of our key roles is bringing leads into the top of the funnel. And the trick is understanding when it is mature enough really for proper follow-up. And I don't know, but I'm sure many of you have had the experience where you download one report, one white paper, interact with one asset, and you get an immediate email, right? Oh, you want to have a meeting. And that is not best practice. So it is very important to understand when customers are ready to have that follow-up. And so I think a huge application for AI, and it's already being used today, is around that knowledge, all the data that you have on customer interactions. If you think about it, being able to then apply that so that your lead scoring is that much more accurate. Most lead scoring has grown up being almost like business rules, right? Marketers will get in a room and say very much if then. If they do this, then this happens. If they do that, then that happens. That was one. The next one was, using some statistics, regression analysis. That then, will tell you. With AI, it's a whole other level of data and analysis and predictive measures to really help get that lead scoring and that intention in so that the teams can qualify and move forward. That's huge. And I think there was a study, it's 60% of the respondents said that was the top use case for them. Another one is around content. And I know this one gets a little bit tricky because of obviously the risks and challenges around using copyright properly and authenticity, right? So the other part of marketing, right? Brands being authentic. We heard about that. That's in the news all the time. When they're not, it gets called out very aggressively. So, but when you think of the productivity potential for AI to help their content producers in marketing departments move quickly with idea generation, right? First drafts, that's another really big application. So I think that's where this idea of a coworker is so important, because as we've been saying, and as Kellie said really well, is it's helping the humans be better humans, right? The creativity. There was one that I was reading, which is fascinating, around Mattel and how they used AI to help them produce, exponentially more Hot Wheels product concept images versus what it would take for your industrial designer to do it, right? And so that's the kind of productivity gain and creative ideation, these innovation, these ideas. So using it with that content development. And then the last one that's really big right now with marketers that we're talking a lot about is around personalization and how you can do hyper personalization at scale. And so that's not easy, obviously, because you have to get it right. Again, we've all gotten, and I certainly have within the last 6 months, the email where it was not the right name. I mean, quite simply, they got it wrong right from the get-go in terms of, the first thing you see when you get something that's supposed to be personalized, it should be your name. So those are three that right now are really big and exciting and can be addressed in some cases, especially the productivity one, with off-the-shelf, Gen AI tools.
Yeah. I thank you, Kellie and Kathy. I mean, I love seeing very specific examples because we've all been through this hype for the last year, right? And I know one of the things that what we do at fairs, we try to figure out, how do you make this real? Like, how do you get past the hype curve and get the specific sort of use cases that actually make a difference? And I love sort of your alliteration of these different use cases. And I think people are taking lots of notes now, like, oh, I should do that. Oh, I should do that. And I love, we got Doug jumping in here saying coworker concept is helping people be better humans. I like it. That's the way we think about it, right? Like, machines should be serving us. Like they should be symbiotic to make life easier for us. So that's our starting point. let's shift a little bit. Kellie, when you think about employees facing adapting the AI-driven workflows, what are some of the challenges that you've seen, and how can they be addressed?
Yeah, listen, it's a great question. I think people who don't know a lot about AI or who are just hearing about this sort of scary thing called AI have this fear that their jobs are going to be replaced, right? And I think, Doug on the chat said it really well. It's that concept of people being better humans and better employees. It makes us much more efficient and more effective. But there is this sort of fear of the unknown, like what's going to happen here, right? And so the more we talk about it and the more we outline our use cases and the more we show like this isn't to replace people, right? It's to make us better and more efficient, the more that it's accepted. And I think that's the big thing is talk through the use cases and help us understand how it makes us better employees, better technologists, better. Think of whatever organization you work in, AI can help you be better. That's one of the biggest things. The other thing that I do worry about, if you think about the sustainability, the effective use of AI, like you don't want data to get out there that you don't want data out there for, right? So think about personal information. You do not, HR cannot let people's personal information be out anywhere. And you don't want that to accidentally get out somewhere, right? So it's somewhere you have to go put protections in place because our employees trust us. They trust us to keep their confidential information. And we have a requirement to do that, right? So that's the right thing to do. And so you have to have protections in place that you don't put just any data out there for AI to analyze for you.
Perfect. Kathy, anything to add to that? Sort of notion of how do we address these challenges?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that is critical, and I know, Kellie's team has really been working closely with the CTO department and leading the charge on this, is the training. So Kellie touched on it around her point with talking about it and really helping employees understand it. And I think the training and encouraging employees to learn and test out the skills is 100% key. I think people see it as very complex because of the way it's been hyped in the market, frankly, or in movies, take your pick. And when you go in and you see some examples hands-on, all of a sudden, I think, the veil comes off. So I think that's key. And in the company, right, in Rackspace, that's been something that Kellie and the team ran really quickly and recognized how important training was and put out, quite a robust curriculum. And if I'm not mistaken, and Kellie can talk more about it, we've actually had customers that have said, that's amazing. Like, can we get that? Can you help us? And so even in my function for marketing, getting the team to become comfortable with actually trying it, testing it, and also feel like it is to empower them, and making some time in conversations and in meetings around it is going to be key, because it is a huge shift. It's both a skill capability shift because people need to learn. Obviously, prompt engineering is key. You can't just do it any old way, right? It matters for the outcome.
It matters.
Exactly. But then also the workflows and having people realize that the human interaction is still a very, very important. And I think people have this sense that, we're just going to tell AI to do something and it's going to go straight out into the market. That's not happening, right? And that certainly wouldn't be the way. So then looking at processes and seeing as a team, well, where it makes sense to help. But yeah, I'll see if Kellie wants to add anything on the training piece, because that's been really exciting for the business.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. We use FairLearn for our employees. And if you think about it, it really gives us a common language and understanding across our kind of 6,000 employees around the world. We're about 94% all certified with two AI classes certifications. So I'm happy about that. And really that's led by, Srini, who is our master technologist, amazing partner for us. But if you think about, now we all have a common language. Now we're, not scared of it, right? And then we show use cases and show how it really works. Then all of a sudden employees are like, hang on, we could use it here, we could use it there. So we have lots and lots of future roadmap projects to go on use cases. So I'm thrilled about it, and I'm thrilled that our employees have embraced it.
Yeah, that's I mean, this is amazing. So one of the things that I just want to highlight is in the conversation, one of the things that you've all talked about is our 3 tenets of responsible AI, right? This notion of one, it's symbiotic, this is about helping humans be better humans, right?
That's right.
So you got to start at that sort of foundational sort of level. Kellie, you talked about, you don't want your information going out there. So a key tenet is it being safe and secure, right? And then we all talked about this notion of training and education, which is at the core a tenet of being sustainable, right? This notion of everyone needs to know what the how to move forward and what their role is. So I love the fact that woven throughout sort of like how you went about it is this notion of just responsibility, and I think that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna switch a little bit. Kathy, you were talking a little about creating content about AI, and I'm just curious, what ethical challenges do you see about AI generated content and ownership? I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal in marketing, particularly because of the importance of this authenticity, right? So the concept of a brand being authentic and content that's put out being authentic is not new, right? So that's been always an important theme, and we've all seen companies get it wrong, and because of course it blows up in the media, and then of course we've seen it, companies get it really right, and especially in the B2C, right, in the consumer, and I started my marketing career in B2C, in consumer products and food and beverages,
right.
So I still really enjoy watching and seeing that place. And I think what's so important is, and we talk about this a lot in conferences, the marketers, is making sure that it's called out and it's clear when something is, AI generated. What's interesting is, so Coca-Cola, there is a really good example. I was at a conference and they showcased what they did. They did a phenomenal project. And if for those of you that haven't seen it and you want to see what this looks like, you just, you can just Google Coca-Cola and AI. They basically put all their brand assets out there and invited creative people out in the world to use AI and basically play around with their brand assets. And they then promoted the actual assets and these ads, and they were amazing, completely different, unique, but it was a way to really be authentic and say, we're inviting you to use that and play with it. And I think the issue is, when you do it, how do you make sure that your consumer base understands that AI is in there, right? And it could be even, we've been talking about, do you put indicators, right? AI generated or, AI contributed. So it's really just another step under that umbrella of being authentic. And that's going to be very important for marketing content, right? Because people still will care whether a human created, let's say, a piece of copy versus it being completely, right, AI generated. And I think that's an important aspect of content generation, because we want that content to be right and robust and rich and add value to the reader. What we don't want to have happen is all of a sudden, just because AI can automate so much, that you go and blast out more and just create more noise. We talked about this earlier in the conversation, right? The noise level is already up. So we're not helping anybody if we just contribute to the noise level. So I think it's balancing the productivity that you can gain, right, and the scale, but retaining that authenticity and relevance.
Right. I love the notion that, just being transparent with sort of the source. But I also think, I think it can help unlock this creativity, right? Because I think humans, you see something, you don't like it. If you can just iterate back and forth faster.
Yes.
And I was at a conference and they said, we need to start thinking about humans being better orchestrators, asking questions, being able to pull things together to really unlock the creativity versus task-based. Because
100%.
repetitive task-based, AI can help you with task-based. So I think that's a pretty big cognitive shift for a lot of folks, as being an orchestrator. versus a tasker.
Yeah.
Right. I agree. And it's so much more fun, it's
Yeah.
that's the good part, is then interacting with it and having it do some of the mundane. We all start with a blank piece of paper. We know how hard that is. So imagine you don't have to do that. Right. And so, like you said, unleashing creative ideas, it's just getting the balance right of then how you're transparent about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's just, because I know there's, I like to address Achilles heels up front, and sort of we have, this sort of like you address the Achilles heels potentially with who owns IP, and for that, Kellie, from Achilles heels potentially is how do we make sure we do it ethically? What are some of the challenges from an ethics perspective that you are addressing head on?
Yeah, listen, I think I hit on it earlier, right? That is protection of our employees' personal information, and who has access to that. But if you think about it, I think Daniel in the comments actually makes a really good point, and that is, listen, if AI has the same access that your subset of humans has, right, then AI can actually, so in our case, ICE can actually do what our humans do, but do it much more efficiently and much more effectively, right? So think about any chat bot that you interact with, right? And we have the same amount of, actually probably more data that our employees have access to, and we can help synthesize that data in a quick and efficient way. So I'm always, as an HR leader, always concerned about protecting our employees and protecting their personal information. That has to be the number one thought process when you go into this in any time you use AI for anything in HR.
That's perfect. And then, like we said, Daniel, your comments about, let's think about AI as a coworker is a very powerful sort of concept, because then you start thinking about like what would be the things you would do for a coworker. You got to train them. You got to make sure you have the right guardrails, right? You've got to make sure you have access control, all those kind of things. And to me, that sort of demystifies this notion of AI as a tech thing. AI is a people thing at the end of the day, right? It's just another tool that is very powerful. And I love sort of the case studies that you have. Folks, if you're online, please, feel free to jump in here with any comments or questions. We're getting to the end of our conversation, so I wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to ask any questions. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to share or ask?
Hey, and Ben, while we're looking for questions, one of the things Jamie asked on the chat early on is kind of what are the gaps, right? So if you think about all the possibilities, all the possible use cases that we could come up with, it's like anything else in any organization. You put together your return on investment, you put together your business case, and you sort of figure out where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, right? All the possibilities are endless. The resources are not. I mean, we're like any other company, right? And so you actually have to train those models. You actually have to have humans interact and train those models so that you don't get the wrong answers, right? And so that takes time and it takes resources. And I want to make sure that everyone understands that it's a process, right? You start at the beginning and you train that model until it becomes better every single time. But it is a process and it takes resources to do that. So that's the biggest gap, Jamie, that I see, is that, resources are not endless. So you have to go pick which ones you're going to work on. What's the biggest bang for your buck?
Yeah. And then I would suggest, I've done a lot of AI exec roundtables, and what I've heard is that it is not a technology thing. The technology, if you have the right partners, you can make it happen. It's an org change thing associated with how you change your behavior, how you look at processes. So I think when we think about, I love this notion where you were humanizing AI in the sense of it's just a coworker. So all the things that you would do in an organization with new coworkers, you do the same thing for AI. So let's not make it a tech thing. Let's make it a people thing.
I see it as 2 new headcount, right? I have ICE and I have Rita on my team.
Yeah.
My amazing HR team.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Kathy. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, we've talked about this in prior conversations where you need to onboard them properly, right? So that's so funny. But if you think about it, if you're going to introduce it to your team, similar to how you introduce a new person, right? They have to have access to certain body of info. You have to introduce, the team has to understand how they're going to fit in, roles and responsibilities, the RACI. It is so similar, right? And I think people, that's one of the interesting things we've figured out as we've started to roll out some of these, like Rita and ICE that Kellie was mentioning, is how similar it is. If you think about it as a coworker, it also helps make sure you don't miss some of those key steps that you would naturally do for a human coworker. And some of the same steps are important.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're getting to sort of the close here, and I just want to be respectful. So I want to ask for Kellie, what do you see to be the future of how AI can transform the HR sort of field?
Yeah, listen, I got the amazing opportunity to chat with hundreds of CHROs about this actual initiative, right? And if CHROs aren't thinking about AI right now, that's almost all they'll be thinking about in the future. And so what I say is go jump in there, embrace it, start with baby steps. That's exactly what we did. We were like, okay, what's the best use case? Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. And we just started adding use cases. But CHROs need to be thinking about that, because I think, again, in the chat, somebody pointed out that while we may not have some of those repetitive jobs anymore, those jobs are going to get better and more enhanced. And CHROs need to be thinking about how do we use that human capability in a much more strategic way, where we're developing people and we're processing at a much higher rate. So CHROs, I encourage you, this is our time to step up. This is our time to help lead our organizations in a great way, and go jump in there and be a leader in this topic, because it's going to be a part of our lives whether we like it or not. So let's go lead it.
All right, CHROs, there's your call to action.
Step up, go with
Kathy,
me.
Let's roll, let's go. Kathy, what do you think? How's AI going to transform marketing?
Yeah, similar to what Kellie said, it is absolutely happening, right? So the other marketing departments around you are certainly going to move ahead more quickly. So very similar call to action. I think as I mentioned earlier, but just to kind of recall some of those, transforming marketing, it's going to be around the productivity capability of that marketing team and their innovative and creative ideas, right? Imagine taking that to the next level. I think that's a key area. The hyper personalization, that's the other big area where it's going to go and make, huge progress that we've tried to. I'm super excited about the analytic and the ROI capability that it's going to hopefully finally get us to. Can you imagine being able to interact in natural language and asking, and just simply, instead of looking at 50 charts, saying which campaign is generating the most return and where should I go and double down? God. Right? I mean,
boom! Holy cow.
So the promise that it holds for that is great. And then I'd say the fourth thing that's very exciting is around this idea of chatbots, and how some research has shown that chatbot approach will work even more than search today. So if you remember, when search came out, marketing put a ton of dollars into search, because the view is that's where our customers are going to get their info. And that is shifting dramatically to now bots. And I think marketers have to embrace bots as a way, because of the way that the consumers will be interacting with them. And if you think about, that's where you get your answer. If you're a consumer, why wouldn't you now go do that? So that's going to be a big shift. And when you look at how the ad dollars have been divided, I think that's going to be a big growth opportunity for the marketing function in general.
Got it. Well, I'm so appreciative that you all decided to come on and have this fireside chat with us, albeit we're different places in the country. I love digital stuff because we can be anywhere. At Rackspace and Fair, one of the things that what I think we've done a really pretty good job at is drinking our own champagne, right? And getting this to actionable sort of level. And when we think about ICE, which is an intelligent coworker for enterprise, and RITA, which is essentially how can you interact with something, and it kicks off workflows, which is a natural extension. Because when we think about AI actually creating value, it's about being in a workflow versus sort of an isolated task. And so I think that Kathy and Kellie, we're going to put you on the talk show circuit, because I think one of the things around sort of this AI thing is it's like, where do I start? Yeah. Okay. And I love the fact that, you've said, here's some very things, and we can show you what's going on, and it's a journey, but, we at least are, we're down the trail a mile from a lot of folks, and we're doing this. So I really appreciate. Also this notion of, think of it as just another coworker. It's just in all the things, and let's figure out. Let's make this something that we can all chew on and do something with. So really appreciate that. Any last words, Kelly, for our audience before we sign off here?
I know, Ben, listen, I think you said it well, and you've done a really great job here. I don't know any leader in any organization that doesn't want more headcount. Mm-hmm. This is headcount, right? This is 2 extra headcount, right? That, at least in our case, both ICE and Rita, is 2 extra headcount. So know that, listen, it can be overwhelming, but happy to chat with anybody that wants to talk about our use cases in Rackspace and what the possibilities are. So educate your workforce. Let's talk about use cases. Let's go. It's a ton of fun.
Let's roll. All right, Kathy, how about you? Any last words?
Yeah, I agree. It's time to really, if you haven't yet, spend time, learn, right? Start getting comfortable with it, because it can absolutely empower you as an employee, whatever, function that you're in, but it's incredibly powerful. And, it's going to reshape how work is done, not too much unlike some of the other technologies that we all rode, right? So we were there in the office before, even, some of us PCs, you've got your mobile phone came, apps. So this is just another really exciting wave. So it's a great time.
It's a good time. So thank you all, folks, for attending today's AI as a coworker live stream. I hope you've gotten some nuggets out of our incredible guests today. I love this notion of, hey, think of it as headcount. Who doesn't want more headcount to do more things? So please, if you enjoyed this session, please click on the code on the screen and get connected to us at FAIR. We look forward to seeing